And one. Hello, all, and welcome to the Fantasy and Sci-Fi Fanatics podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Coolbaugh. Today, I have me a very special guest, Simon Kewin. Simon, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thanks for having me,
Yeah.
Daniel.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for reaching out. It took me forever to get done with season four. That's why I'm trying to do season five a little bit better so that way I can fit in some extra people in the spring with lives, book launches, and some other things. So I'm trying to get all these things pre-recorded before January 1st. I'll probably have to do a smaller slot once the summer hits for the wrap-up peeps. But I really appreciate you reaching out and being patient, and really appreciate you coming on today and discussing, your writing, your journey, and your books with us today. So thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. We'll start right there with that first question. What has your writing journey been like up until this point?
That's a really good question. I'm one of those people who always thought they'd be a writer one day.
Oh, cool.
As a kid, I just thought that was obviously what everyone wanted to do with their lives.
I get
It
that.
turns out that isn't true, but some people do. And I turned about 30 and I just started writing short stories. And it's just grown and grown from there, really.
That's cool.
There's occasionally been poems, but short stories became longer and longer, and then they became novellas, and then they became novels, and then they became trilogies, and it's just been growing from there.
That's really cool. Can I ask you, what was it? Was there anything specifically when you were growing up? Was there like a teacher or an assignment or a book or a story? Like, what was it maybe that like kind of led to that seed that was planted for that love of writing?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people had good English teachers that kind of inspired them, and I had good English teachers, which helped a lot. I think it I think it was basically a love of reading that triggered it all, though. This is a really strange thing to say, and I've said this before to people, but when I grew up, we lived in a house without central heating, which
Hmm.
sounds like an irrelevant point. So there was only one room in the house which was warm,
Got
basically.
it.
So in the winter, we all had to huddle in there, and then, so my parents and my siblings would be watching stuff on television that I did not want to watch and was not
Hmm.
interested. So I would just hide in the corner reading books, basically. You know, I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
I would read Asimov books and Arthur C. Clarke books and escape from the
yeah.
world. It just
Yeah.
That was how it all started, really.
Yeah. I laugh because like my parents, they live in a really old farmhouse built by like a Civil War like general or whatever uh officer, sorry, officer, and yeah, he came back, built it. So like yeah, like they don't have like central air. Their heat works most of the time, but like the house always where they're at in central Michigan like always loses power.
Okay.
So but like we didn't have cable at the time. They couldn't run it out there. It was too expensive. My parents don't have internet. It's pretty expensive for where they're at. It's slowly, getting down, but yeah,
Yeah.
like we had, like VHS, that kind of thing. So my brother and I watch movies, but you can only watch so many movies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I did the
Yeah.
same thing. Like I had I just read, and like that was like the easiest thing. But I remember like it was just had a kid the other day was like, oh, I read my Kindle all the time. I'm like, that's great. I go, you don't realize how great that is. I'm like, when my parents lost power, it'd be like 8 o'clock at night or 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
and I was like, we didn't have any lights, right? So I'm like, here I am with a kerosene like lamp trying to
Yeah.
finish a book, and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah,
Uh,
I'm like, it must be nice to have Kindle now. So
I mean,
I laugh.
this was Britain in the 70s, basically. So, we had like three channels on television, and we obviously
Mhm.
no internet, and yeah, we had Star Trek once a week for an hour, but apart from that, you had nothing to escape with other than books, basically. So
Yeah, yeah,
books,
yeah.
books
Well, it's
were
nice too, right? Because books are like the best escape, I think,
yeah,
because
yeah,
like my dad showed me Indiana Jones from a young kid, and I thought that was so cool, and I loved it. I wanted to be an archaeologist, but I was also like the same year I watched that, I got attacked by like three different types of snakes in Michigan. So I was like, we felt very connected to the character. But there was so cool at the library. They had the Young Indiana Jones
Ooh,
books. Yeah, and they were really, really, really brilliantly written in my opinion for like, children's like with the movie by certain authors, and yeah, like but there was like certain things like that where I was like, why would you not read?
yeah,
Like and
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I would, and I kind of wish I could get back to this really, but I would devour two, three books a day sometimes,
Oh,
because
yeah, yeah,
as a kid you have that time, you
yeah.
could sit in a corner and read. I would read like three Michael Moorcock books in a day. That would be like
Oh, yes.
you
Yeah.
know, and then oh,
Another
it's
good
time
one.
for bed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I remember like my record on vacation, like I went up north with my parents in Upper Michigan to the like, Upper Peninsula, and like we would go once a year, and I would just go to the library and just stack myself, and I would bring five, and then like I would bring money, and at the time it was nice because Forgotten Realms, Dragonlance, and Star Wars, you name it, right? They were
Yeah,
450 for a paperback, so like, I would
yeah,
buy like 5 or 6 books, but I would probably read like 8 books on vacation because like
yeah,
around fishing or whatever we were doing on vacation, we were usually just hanging out at the cabin, and that's what I would
yeah.
do is just read. That's like where I was like, oh, I'm gonna start to write too once I got to middle school because I had finished all the books I brought.
Right. Yeah,
I
yeah,
needed something
yeah,
else to do, Yeah,
yeah.
that's super cool.
It's
That's
good.
awesome. Now, you talked a little bit about what you like to read, but what genre or genres do you currently write in and why?
Um, I yeah, I write. I mean, I always give quite vague answers to this question. So I write science fiction and I write fantasy, and obviously there's a million different sorts of each of those
Yeah.
genres. But I don't know. I don't really write in one particular genre. I would say I don't always write space opera. I don't always write urban fantasy. I tend to switch between the two, I think. That's been my experience. I find if I'm in the middle of a fantasy book, for example, I kind of long to write some science fiction where,
Oh,
I've
interesting.
I've got science to tell me what is going on in the world. And then when I'm writing
Yeah.
science fiction, I'm like, I really want to write some fantasy where I can just have magic that, makes stuff work that I want it to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
work. So I move between the two. So I wouldn't say I'm a grim dark this or any particular sort of science fiction. I like to, as we'll probably come on to, I'd like to move around basically. And my
Yeah.
my sort of writing hero was always Ursula Le Guin. And obviously
Oh man, yeah.
she would write all sorts of stuff, whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
you couldn't categorize her, you couldn't say what she wrote. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm on her level, but that her desire or her willingness to just write science fiction and fantasy and kids books and whatever, philosophy, that's what I aspire to really. I just thought
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
fantastic. So,
Oh, she was so cool. I wish I had been able to meet her. I discovered Wizard of Earthsea. There was at my high
mm,
school there wasn't a lot of middle school and high school. Middle school I think we had more like Brian Jacques, those kind of things, Red
okay.
Wall, The Lost Company. We had those. I had discovered in middle school. I went to Catholic school too, so I was probably part of it. But yeah, there weren't a lot of fantasy and sci-fi. But
Mm,
my teachers were very, very talking about English teachers. I had the best English teachers, but yeah, and there was a couple of Terry Pratchett's there. Like I remember seeing The Color of Magic. I didn't read it at that time. I read it
mm,
several years ago. But
yeah.
yeah, it's but like when I discovered Wizard of Earthsea at my high school, because my high school had like next to nothing. I would read
Mm,
historical fiction, like G.H. White and stuff like that. But yeah, there wasn't a lot. But I remember picking up Wizard of Earthsea because we had to read for school in order to graduate every grade and like a certain number. And I didn't have trouble reading, but I had trouble reading what they wanted me to read because there was nothing that
right.
I wanted to read. So I discovered her first book, and God, if I could go back to freshman year and reread, that book for the first time again, kind of like in seventh grade, go back, reread The Hobbit. That would just be super awesome. But I could not believe how much world building and the
Yeah.
gravitas, that you felt with the magic system in a book
Yeah.
that was very big, for any of them. Yeah. Yeah. She was super cool.
Right. Yeah, but it's funny, you mentioned The Hobbit as well, but The Hobbit and The Wizard of Earthsea, I can still remember how I felt when I read
Yeah.
those books for the first
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Those worlds.
That's,
It
yeah.
was
Yeah.
That's what I
Oh,
wanted to
that's
do.
really, yeah. I just think it's funny you mention it because I have kids ask me. I teach, so they ask me all the time. They're like you just look really tired. I'm like, well, I was up with my kid. I was podcasting, trying to get stuff. I was like, and then I'm writing, or vice versa, right? And they're like, why don't you just come? One kid's like, why don't you just quit? I'm like, I just can't. And I think that you just said the reason I wasn't really able to put into words why, but I think that's it, is that I know the feeling like Kevin Hearn, the first time I read the first Iron Druid Chronicles, I just flew through it and I just loved it. And I think that's really why I can't stop because I want somebody, if one person could tell me, right,
Yeah.
this is
Mm.
how I felt, all the
Yeah.
time and energy for decades would be worth it. So I think
Yeah.
you kind of hit the nail right on the head. So yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I'm
I think
always,
you're right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Just one person. saying that makes it all worthwhile just because you've made that connection.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
That's super cool. Well, that's
And
awesome.
it's very occasionally when you're writing as well. I mean, I don't know if you find this, but I mean, a lot of the time when you're writing, it's just like a bit of a slog. Let's be honest. You don't know.
I'm in the slog right now, actually,
Right.
Simon. I'm in it
No,
right now.
I mean, I won't. I'll spare you my whole why writing is like running dialogue.
Well, actually, I'd like to hear that. I would actually really like to hear that.
I really. I mean, it does. Oh, well,
Yeah.
well, okay. I mean, I'm a runner as well, so
Oh, cool.
often as I'm running, I'm thinking because most of the time when you're running, it's awful. It's a slog and it's
Yeah.
painful, and um, but just very occasionally, for some reason, I don't know, the stars align. You're going downhill. That probably helps. You
Yeah.
suddenly feel like you're flying, you're floating, and you
Mhm.
just, it's effortless, and you're just in the moment, and you just suddenly 5 miles have gone by. And it's the same with writing. Sometimes it's hard work to find each next word, but sometimes 3,000 words just appear on the page, and you don't really know
Yeah.
how that happened. And it's a lovely
Yeah.
thing. It's getting in that flow in both things is lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
anymore, but something is there, and it's great. And
I really
also,
like that.
with running, also you're obviously building up stamina. So I was saying I started with very short stories, and now it's the same with running. I could only run 100
Yeah.
meters 10 years ago, but now
Yeah. Yeah.
I can go
Yeah.
further.
Yeah, yeah. You make me feel better, Simon. I'm a martial artist. I totally get the running thing. I'm a martial artist, and I was practicing the same form. Like for literally like a year and a half. And I was trying to get my next belt so I could like kind of take a break and kind of move on from that. And I wasn't able to. My wife was really sick, so I was home a lot, which was totally fine. So I kept practicing, right? Well, then my son was born. I was like, I'm gonna keep going, and then when I get back, I'll just be good. That obviously was the dumbest thing I ever thought because it wasn't possible, right? So I just went
Yep.
back recently, and then I knew they were going to ask me. I went back on weapons days. They were asking me the other day. I went back on a non-weapons day, and they're like, "Hey," and I'm like, I had to have done that thing like literally no joke at least 5,000 times, like
Yeah.
almost 2 years, and then taking a year off, like a little over a year off from it. Yeah, I had to relearn everything again. That's like how I feel if I'm not writing, frequently at least. Yeah, so I totally get that. Yeah, it definitely feels that way sometimes, but once you get it right, it feels like I got
Yeah.
it. So that's
Once you
cool.
keep doing it, it becomes easier and easier to keep doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, I was gonna say another author, or sorry, creative, said something really profound to me recently, and because he like asked me, he's like, "When's your book coming out?" Like novella. I'm like, "I'm trying so hard." I was like, "I'm just like stuck right now, and like mentally," and I was like, "It's probably work and life." And he's like, "Well, are you at least writing like something else?" And I was. I was like, "No, it's just like been frustrating." And he just said something so profound to me. He's like, "Well, you're a teacher, right?" I go, "Yeah." He's like, "You used to be a coach." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, you cannot expect results from work that you're not doing." And I was just like, oh my God. And I was like, I thought that was like really, really good. So I've been using that for in my
Yeah.
classroom too. And now that's been my thing for myself. So I've been getting back on the horse and at least just getting something down, even if it's
I,
just.
I mean, I completely agree. I've always found it really useful to have more than one thing on the go at a time. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
I used to make the mistake many years ago. I would start writing a short story and then I would struggle with it and then I would finish it and I'd send it out and I'd just sit there and but it's the way my brain works. I guess maybe everyone's brain works. If you know you've got to come up with a scene or you've got to solve some problem, my brain just refuses to do it. And then it just immediately starts coming up with some great ideas in a completely
Yep.
different universe or a different book or story. So I've just got used to saying, well, fair enough, I'll go and do that for a bit and then I'll come
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
um, if I trick my brain really to say, no, that's fine. I don't think about that then. And then as soon as it starts thinking about the other thing it's come up with,
Yeah.
the ideas for the first problem
Yeah.
crop.
Yeah. Well, my friend was like, we were like kind of talking, it's like a car in the winter, right? Like, I mean, now it's like fine because new cars, you don't have to do it, right? But if you have an older car, you still have to warm it up in the winter, right? To help that engine. And then you can go, right? And he was saying, he was like, come on, dude. He's like, you know this. He's like, he goes, that's why because he was the one that originally told me, he's like, I got three things I'm always doing. I have my main project, my secondary project, and just
Yeah.
something fun as hell. And he was like, you got out of that habit, right? I said, I did. I was just so focused on the main project because I'm so close. He's like, we just had this conversation the other day. He's like, you just need to go back and just go to one of those other two. So that's actually what I'm doing later on this evening. So but yeah, I totally think that's a very valuable advice from both of you.
That is wise
Yeah,
advice. Yeah.
definitely
Don't
wise
beat
advice.
yourself up. Don't beat
Yeah.
yourself up. You can't think
I
of the
think
next
that's been my problem lately is I am because I'm so close. I had to like wrote myself into a corner with rewrites and I thought I was okay and then it turned out I just screwed myself up and the way that I am I feel like I had to solve this other problem like first it just like blocked me from being able to because usually I
one.
can go to the other part of the book right and kind of whatever right because it's not
Yeah,
really contingent on this one but for some reason I just got blocked from doing
okay.
that. I've never had this problem before. I haven't had writer's block or a mental thing in probably like 13 years. So like I might like stop with the story and go write something else but I've never just not whatever. So I was glad that he called me out on it. That's what good friends do, right? So it was
Good.
interesting. Well, I want to talk to you about your Triplet Stars books and kind of want to know what they're about. And also, how did you come up with this idea?
The Triple Stars books, yeah, they're it kind of leads on from what you were just saying about plotting and how to do that. Because there are three science fiction books in the Triple Star series, so Dead Star, Red Star, and God Star. Um, but I actually didn't write them as a trilogy. I wrote one of them as a single book. But which is normal enough, people write a book and then they think,
Yeah.
oh, I could write. But what I did for some reason was write the third one first and then work backwards from there. So, which isn't something I'd recommend you doing actually, but I because the idea of Godstar, the third part, which is this one.
I love those
Uh,
covers, by the way.
Thank you. So I'd recently finished some fantasy books and I wanted to write, and they were kind of, sort of smaller scale, kind of
Mm.
uh, urban fantasy, maybe. I wanted to write something big and galaxy spanning, something with a sense of wonder, that had a huge scale and or great expanses of time and great galactic secrets and so that was the inspiration for Godstar. So without any spoilers, it's got a sort of um, vast. It's got a very old galactic mystery at its core.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
it's got, I mean, it's got. There's a particular. I guess we call them him an alien. It's an alien that was the fundamental idea that I thought was cool. So there's this one individual who's kind of central to the whole story, but doesn't really act for a particular reason that I won't go into. And there's a sort of ancient threat that is endangering the galaxy, and then
Oh, cool.
but it all starts with just with one character, and she doesn't really know any of this stuff. She's just trying to survive basically, and then slowly the story opens out into this galaxy-wide, million-year-wide story of what's been going on and how what the
Oh,
danger is. I just love we were talking about books we loved as a boy, and I just loved sort of
yeah.
massive, like a Ringworld or something where,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
wow, that
Yeah.
sense of, gosh, look, that's fantastic. So I wanted to come up with something like that, and that was the inspiration for Godstar. And then the two books before it are the story of how that came about, basically. So
Oh, that's super cool.
they were fun to write. They were really fun to
Yeah.
write.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really neat. I love any time that there's like a mystery because I'm a mystery person. I haven't like real like I used to be really like big into them, and now I like where
Mm.
I like a mix of genres in a book now. Like that's like my thing. I like a lot
Mm.
of people that like do mysteries. Like I like there've been some amazing Forgotten Realms ones. City of Mass or City of Ravens was a really good one. And yeah, just like by Mel Odom and you're like it's not really like a who done it, but you're still trying to kind of figure that out. And I just love like those different elements. But I've loved what people have done in fantasy. I had James Logan on here, the Silver Blood Promise, and he has a bunch of mysteries in his fantasy, and I love them in sci-fi too. I just think they're just so cool, right? To have that main thing and to kind of tease. And I know the big
Yeah.
thing now is like the Lost Empire, right? And having
Right.
some sort of mystery or secret around them, whether it's fantasy or sci-fi. But yeah, I love to be surprised, so I love that kind of thing. Like mysteries are. My wife's like, "Why do you like that?" I'm like, I love mysteries. I love trying to solve them, and then if I can't, like being surprised. So I think that's a really cool idea. So that's awesome.
Well,
Uh,
I mean,
yeah,
I just hope that somebody, who's read them, there's been moments when they've gone, oh, just like, whoa, yeah,
yeah,
that's
that's
what's
really
going
cool.
on. So, I mean,
Yeah,
that may or may not be true, but that's what I like to imagine,
yeah, yeah,
that sense of the galaxy opening up and history opening up.
yeah. That's cool.
Was
I
it
mean,
was
I totally think like a lot of people think that it's only like a Brandon Sanderson novel or or something or something like that that people can feel that way. So I think sometimes when I talk to authors, they forget that it doesn't matter who you are, right? It just like who you are, it matters who the reader is, right? For those kind
yeah,
of things. So I think we forget that it doesn't like I just met some people recently that were like, I don't care if there's spelling mistakes, really. Like as long as the story's good and the characters are great, they're like, especially the characters are like, I'm all about it. So I thought that was like a really cool feedback to get from a bunch of
mm,
readership and stuff. So that was really neat.
that
So
is
cool.
good. Yeah, yeah. I think
I was
we
just
we
say like, yeah,
we can obsess about details like that, but yeah, it is
mm,
characters and it's
yeah,
story that matter really. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but
I was gonna say like for foundation, right? Like
yeah,
I don't know, there's just so many, right? Like how you could pick any, I think, for the time period, right? Dune, there's just so much sci-fi that because I've had people ask me like, why do you like really expansive sci-fi? And I'm like, that's what I used to read, like
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I grew up
absolutely. Yeah,
reading. So
yeah. That golden age stuff, which just seemed to have no limitations on its imagination. I like sort of near future, sort of more
mm,
earthbound science fiction. It's great
mm,
stuff, but just the sense of wonder, basically, of those sort of older golden age stories I loved. So that was the idea behind Godstar, really.
no, it's cool. It's
So
super cool.
yeah,
That's like the my friend bought me a copy of Ray Bradbury's The Illustrated Man. I have to
right.
don't get
Okay.
to reading it, but yeah, I was surprised because I had read quite a few of Ray Bradbury stories at that time, back in like high school and stuff. I just reread a couple years ago, like right before the pandemic. But it was so interesting for me because I liked it so much from a sci-fi, like the Martian Chronicles. I thought were just like absolutely incredible, but it was so different than sci-fi that I guess I was used to.
Yeah.
So kind of like the Martian I read last year with my class.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was really good. My wife's like, "That's
Great
not your
book.
typical." Yeah, she's like, "That's not your typical sci-fi." I said, "It doesn't matter. It's a great book." I
It is
was
it
like,
is a
"He's still
great
on
book.
Mars." So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Super cool.
fantastic book. Yeah, really, really
Yeah,
enjoyed
yeah,
it.
yeah. And
But
we read my buddy and I for book club read Project Hail Mary by him, and it was awesome. And I had another author friend and was like suggesting books, right? And she's like, "Well, he loved Project Hail Mary." I was like, "How about Artemis by him?" She's like, "Oh, he hated it." But she told me why her husband hated it, and I was like, "Oh,
okay.
that sounds like it's my kind of book." So I'm like so excited, and we're gonna do that as like our next palate cleanser. So I'm
Okay.
like really really excited about that. But yeah, I just still feel though like so at home when somebody does that, really expansive type of world and a lot of different, things going on. I just love the space opera genre just in general too. So anything like that, I think it just harks back to the roots for me. For sci-fi, my grandpa and I used to watch Dune all the time. Like I never realized how much sci-fi that he ingested that like carried on to me, like Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica, like those kind of things. To me as an adult, and I'm like, oh, they're more expansive than I had previously thought. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's why I like those kind of things. So I'm glad to know that the Triple Stars is like that. So that's super cool.
Well, I hope that was the idea. I'll leave it to you to decide if they succeed, but yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Well, we'll kind of keep chugging along here, but those sound really interesting. What are the Club and Land trilogy books about, and what type of magic
Okay.
system can readers expect?
Yeah, so the Cloven Land is it's so those are very different books. I was talking before about jumping between genres. And that was interesting because you were saying you quite like books that mix
Yeah,
genres.
yeah, yeah.
So the Cloven Land books is another trilogy that I again find quite hard to define. They're basically fantasy books. I mean, they are fantasy books. There's a secondary world with, magic and the undead and witches and, terrible dark enemies and all the rest of it. But they're also kind of cyberpunky science fiction books in a way because the action spills over into our world, specifically the UK as it happens, because that's where I am,
Yeah.
and um, that becomes more like it's not quite science fiction, but it's more like maybe cyberpunk at times, I
Oh,
suppose,
cool.
because the evil people in the fantasy world, the other world, are in our world as well with some dark design. But they're hiding behind a corporation to do that in our world, and they're just a
Oh,
sort of evil empire in your standard fantasy world. So I kind of wanted to draw on. I
cool.
deliberately wanted to write something which mixed those two sorts of stories. So a classical high fantasy book and a urban fantasy cyberpunky thriller, if you like.
Yeah.
So that was the idea, and the action moves between the two worlds. Mostly in the other world, I would say, but it definitely moves between our world and the other world.
I was gonna say that like your first little tagline there, two worlds, one nightmare, like really
Okay, I
really
guess.
had me going from the
Yeah.
start. That so if people want to check out the links in the description, definitely check those out. But I thought book one's blurb was awesome. I'm putting together I always try and put together a reading list from the previous season. I leave a little bit, for myself to because if I just set a list, I just get bored. So I set like about 2/3 of my list from my last season. So for this season, for the new year, I got some books from you guys on here. So it was really hard for me to choose for you though, Simon. But I think that I'm gonna have to go with book one there with Hedge Witch.
Okay.
Yeah, that definitely. I sent it to my friend. He was like, "Man, this sounds right up our alley." I was like, "Yes, definitely sounds like our kind of thing." But I want people to check out that blurb just from if you're a writer, or author, or just somebody that's trying to, you know, explain your work. I think that's one of the better blurbs that I've seen
Well,
recently. So,
yeah. I mean, I just spent like you just asked me what the books were about, and I was fumbling to explain. But you're right. Two worlds, one nightmare. That says it perfectly. I should
that's
just
great. Yeah.
use my own blurb. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the covers too. You have a lot of really cool covers, but those like I was originally going to go to school for art, for like illustrating, but like the program I was in at the time, in Michigan, and like they just didn't really have anything.
Right.
And now it's like so different, right? So I could have just done it and just done it. But yeah, like I love like design and stuff like that. My mom's a graphic designer and stuff, so
So
she does
useful.
interior design now. Yeah, so yeah, like she taught me a lot like growing up and stuff. So I just love book covers. So I've seen a lot of them and I study a lot of them, but I really like those ones in particular. So definitely want people to pause and go check those out. Click on those in the description. But
Great.
I'm kind of curious, like where was like the idea though for like two worlds, one nightmare? Did I mean, I know personally myself, there are those types like Beastmaster, the second movie, right? They go from the fantasy world into our world, and then that's like
Yeah.
this is where they're at. I'm kind of curious though, like where did that idea for you stem though from? That's a really cool concept.
Uh, well, I was living in Manchester at the time when I wrote them, which is where
Cool.
a lot of the action in our world
Yeah, yeah.
happens. So I was just, although as a writer, our heads are full of, fantasy worlds and stuff. I just used to walk around Manchester, the city, and kind of imagine, you know, what might be just around the corner and what dark
Cool.
creatures might be lurking in the shadows of the city.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think thinking back, I mean, Hedge Witch is kind of my first love as a book. It was kind of the
Mhm.
first proper novel I wrote, so it's
Oh, cool.
maybe the one I love the most. But
Mm.
that's a bit like saying which child you love the most. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's not true. But I did love it, and I think there was a probably a political edge to it as well. I would think
Hmm.
not political is the wrong word, but the sort of cyberpunk sort of
Oh yeah.
worrying about corporations and powerful
Yeah, yeah.
corporations in our world. So I was thinking about all that stuff, sort of Blade Runner and all the rest of it. And I was thinking
Oh
about
yeah, yeah.
high fantasy, your Dark Empire, your Evil Lord kind of thing. And then I just thought one day, what if they're the same people?
That's
The
cool.
evil empire in the fantasy magical world and the evil corporation in our world. What if they're the same people? So which they are. That's kind of the setup for the book.
That's awesome.
And I just thought that would be fun to have action moving between the two worlds, and I could draw upon the
Yeah,
city
yeah.
that I could see around me, and I could also invent stuff that would be fun. So
Yeah, yeah. That's
that's
super
what
cool.
that's what it
That's
grew out of.
awesome. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that's super cool. I love when people do that, like you did with Manchester. When I lived in Phoenix, I was literally reading Iron Druid Chronicles at the same time as I was reading Kevin Hearn's books, and like the character lived in Tempe. And my wife would go there, and I just was like, "Oh, this is crazy." Went to Rula Bula, which is like the main characters and Kevin's favorite restaurant around there. I had the fish and chips.
yeah,
Absolutely amazing. It's
yeah.
the only real fish and chips that I've had in the United States. I
Lovely.
would say that I've had people. I'm just saying and the best I've had so far. It was really good, but yeah, it was so cool. I like passed a high school where the characters like fought like this thing. I'm not gonna give it away. And I just thought that was so cool. I was on the way home from my house between my
Yeah,
apartment and my wife's apartment at the time. So for me, like that's really cool. I like to when we've traveled, we've gone to different places. Our friends live in Philly, so before my son was born, we used to go there a lot. And I kind of did the same thing because Philly said to be really haunted. And there's certain places where I'm like, man, you just like feel it
yeah,
just feels like has a feeling to it, right? And I've written some of those things into my urban fantasy series. I was like, oh, it'd be really cool for my character to go here, do this thing. Yeah, I love when people write about like those places where they lived or visit a lot. It just feels different. So I really like that. That's really cool.
but yeah, it still sends a thrill. Yeah, I mean, the places I'm writing about were not, they're not cathedrals and graveyards. They're just sort of normal places. But
Yeah.
as it happens, I was back there recently. I don't live in Manchester anymore, but I walked
Okay.
down the road where the book starts, as it happens, just outside a
Oh,
particular
that's
bit.
cool.
And I was just like, oh, this is where I was looking around, as if the action was about to unfold around me. It was quite strange, but
Yeah,
it
that's
didn't.
super cool.
Fortunately, it didn't. I'm gonna say.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, you'd be like that the book and show Inkheart, right? Where it's like the author's like books come to life. Um, which I always
Yeah,
thought was a really cool concept. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's why my friend he was like, "Man, you are so mean to your characters." He's like, "There's a lot going on." He's like, "But man," he's like, "I hope that it's not like that where you meet your character one day." He's like, "They'd probably be really upset with you." I was like, "I think
yeah.
that's fair for most people, but
I think, yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I mean, you've got to put them through hell to get them to the other side, right? So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it does
Otherwise,
feel
it's not
cruel.
fun, right?
I do
Yeah,
feel bad sometimes
yeah,
what I'm putting them through, but yeah,
yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
complain. They just get on with it.
Well, I had some of my friends that were like reading because I have my prequel novella trilogy from Urban Fantasy that I'm finishing up, but it's like it's crazy because I pretty much have the whole outline for the third one, and I know what's going to happen for both of them. Pretty much like 2/3 of the way writing the second one, like rough draft. I just kind of paused, but so I could finish the first one, right, to finalize some things. But yeah, I was like giving stuff to my friends, and a couple were like, "Man, this is like," they're like, "I really hope you're like helping him out." I was like, "Oh, don't worry." I was like, "He's gonna get some good stuff," but yeah, I was like, "He's gonna be put through the ringer," but. Yeah, like
Yeah,
you said, right? It makes a good story. So, but I promise everybody, I'm always good to my characters at the end. I like a happy ending personally, so not for the bad guys, but yeah.
yeah.
So the next one I really would love to talk about. Excuse me, I'm like losing my voice today. What is
It's
your
okay.
book, The Gene Hunter, about, and what type of science fiction tropes can readers find within its pages? That one sounded really cool.
The Gene Hunter, yeah. So as I was talking before about how I slowly gained stamina as a writer, the Gene Hunter was written as 5 novellas originally, because at the
Oh
time
wow.
I didn't think it was possible to write more than a novella, because that's what, like 10, 12, 15,000 words or something. But that was about the extent of the length I could write. So I wrote So I mean, they're kind of Blade Runner-ish
Oh,
stories, I
cool.
suppose, sort of dystopian near future
Yeah.
science fiction. They're kind of detective stories. So
Cool.
the setup is that people collect the DNA of the rich and famous, basically, for kind of dark museums, um,
Interesting.
and maybe illegally use that DNA to recreate those famous people, which is obviously illegal in that world. Um, but my hero, who's kind of an anti-hero, is a gene hunter, so he's kind of employed, given lots of money to go and track down the DNA of the rich and famous,
That's cool.
for by sort of rich clients. And he starts out as a very kind of amoral. I'll do whatever I have to do because I'm being paid to do it. And then
Mhm.
slowly his humanity kind of creeps in, and
Mhm.
he has a child, and he starts to have doubts about what he's doing, and then he
Mhm.
discovers something about himself which just blows his mind, and he's like, "Whoa, okay, I started out as this sort of one-dimensional, two-dimensional, you know, character that's quite sort of nasty, really, but he doesn't think he's nasty, but then I guess no one does. But by the end, he's sort of realized what he had become." Um, and without spoiling. But so it's a series of five mysteries, effectively, as he tries to
Oh,
solve
cool.
a particular case. But there's an overarching mystery as well that is threaded throughout the five. So it was that. Although it's I think it was they were written kind of around the same time as the Cloven Land trilogy.
Mm.
Maybe some of them were before, but it was that sort of dark cyberpunky feel that fed into the more lightweight, not lightweight, more fun fantasy world of the Cloven Land trilogy.
Mm.
So the Gene Hunter's quite dark, I would say, or as dark as I get anyway. I'm not.
Well, it sounds awesome. So sorry about saying that right after the dark, but I love me some Blade Runner. I love the dystopian stuff. I find it very interesting for certain themes and development, in terms of characters. I just got done with Suzanne Collins' Sunrise at the Reaping, where it's
Okay,
like Hamish Abernathy's like prequel. It's like how he went to the Hunger Games in one.
okay,
Oh my gosh. I was like, there's no way. It was like an Amazon. There was only like 15 books you could pick for the bookmark for this
right,
period. And usually you can pick like a couple hundred, right? And I was like, what am I gonna read? Like there was only one other kind of fantasy, I'd say, but not really. It was so light fantasy. I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I almost just skipped it, but I haven't missed a bookmark challenge in like well
right,
over a year. And I
okay,
was like, oh, this one's on here. And I was glad I took a chance on it because I did enjoy the first Hunger Games book. I got to get to the rest of them, but this one was like she was really on her mark, and
okay,
the
right,
characterization, yeah, it was really good. But again, there were a lot of dark themes in there for
yeah,
dystopian.
yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah,
felt like she hit the dystopian really well. And I don't know, I learned a lot as a reader about the world and her writing, but as a writer, I learned some cool things. And that's why I always like the dystopian because I see so like a couple people I've seen have mixed dystopian characters and themes with, some not just sci-fi, but also fantasy recently,
yeah,
which I think
yeah,
is really cool. So
yeah.
I think you can learn a little something from everybody. So, but the Gene
Yeah.
Hunter sounds awesome. So I'm excited
It's
about
it's
that one.
yeah, it's definitely science fiction. There's no fantasy in it, but it's a book, and there's a pattern emerging, which we might come on to later. But it actually grew out of a short story. So I wrote a short story many years before I wrote The Gene Hunter,
Oh, cool.
with the same central character, but in a slightly different universe. But
Hmm.
he was being paid by somebody to track down the DNA of the Beatles in like
That's cool.
in like 100, 200 years hence, so that because
Yeah, yeah.
this evil corporation type wanted to recreate the Beatles so they could,
That's
make $1 billion by by staging concerts and stuff. So I mean,
yeah,
these
yeah.
these days we just use avatars, and we wouldn't need to go to all that trouble.
Yeah. Use AI, right? It'll just do
Yeah,
it, you know?
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but that was the sort of setup, and then it just grew out of that. Really, I developed that character and gave him a more complicated backstory and
Hmm.
a more interesting world, and set him off tracking down DNA.
cool. Sorry, I got a couple sub questions here for you. One,
Go
how did this idea come about? That's such a cool concept, like tracking down like yeah,
Yeah.
DNA of like celebrities.
I sometimes books come to me from or story ideas come to me from a
Mm,
single word that I just hear
mm,
or invent.
that's cool.
And I just heard the word, actually it wasn't Gene Hunter, it was Gene Stealer I read.
Mm,
But Gene Stealer came to me and I was like, oh, okay,
that's
I
cool.
could maybe use that. That's obviously Gene Stealer is obviously different things, but I could use the Gene Hunter. And very often I find that the idea for what happens in my head is I get an idea, I get two unrelated ideas and I just smash them together and think, oh, that might be interesting if we
Yeah, yeah.
combine those two. So with the Cloven Land, it was, the cyberpunk corporation and the evil empire in the
Mm,
fantasy world. I sort of
yeah, yeah.
collided those together. And
That's
with the
cool.
Gene Hunter, it was just like, well, what if we took a standard sort of detective story and then, he's not trying to find the murderer, he's trying to do this weird thing of finding the DNA of the rich and famous from history and give them to people who collect that stuff.
That's
Because
cool.
maybe that will happen. I don't know. I kind of hope it
It
does.
definitely sounds like something that would
Yeah,
happen, like that
yeah,
Futurama kind of thing, right? Where they're like
yeah,
pulling the yeah, them out.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I hope it doesn't because it's not particularly fun in the books. But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
I can, people ascribe a sign of monetary value to all strange things. They become
Oh
really.
yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if that happened at some point. So I just thought, well, I'll write some thrillers, detective stories based in that world, and then they grew from that. And I sort of have vague ideas of writing another one,
Oh, cool.
which I might do. But I have possibly like yourself, I have a million notes for a million potential books.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We'll see. But yeah, it's the standalone
Well,
book.
I just find it interesting too because I had some stuff I was like ready to pop onto Kindle Vella. I had like seasons planned,
Yeah.
like six
But
seasons planned of 10 episodes for like a Mission Impossible, a fantasy version of Mission Impossible meets like Lethal Weapon. We have
okay.
like an older character, right? He's like a shadow, like kind of like assassin, thief, ex-assassin, but now turned thief. So he uses his powers for that. And then I have a young like Viking style war priest, and the two of them get smashed together like in Lethal Weapon with Mel Gibson and Danny
Right.
Glover. But
Yeah.
then they get thrown into this Mission Impossible plot and have to do a bunch of stuff in a Japanese feudal style kingdom in a fantasy world. So it just stunk though because then now Kindle Vella is like not a thing. So I was like, what am I gonna do? So I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna do a series of novellas. So I'm like going back and forth because I have the first one like
Yeah.
season, and if I just put a few together, it'll actually be a pretty thick novella. And I thought maybe I'll throw like three seasons together, and kind of finish off the first arc as like an anthology, but just
Yeah.
make it like three parts. So I'm not quite sure yet. My friends are trying to get me to make it like actually one thicker book. But I'm
Okay.
curious at why you decided to throw the Gene Hunter, those five novellas into one
Yeah.
versus like five different products. I'm just curious, like why you decided that.
Yeah, originally I did publish them as five novellas originally. So it was
Oh,
just,
okay. Sorry, I
they
didn't
were,
realize that. Okay.
no, well, you wouldn't know because they're not uh, generally available anymore. I mean, they're on my
Okay.
website, but in
Yeah,
terms
yeah.
of the main retailers, they're no longer available.
Hmm.
But so I mean, this was quite a while. But my thinking was, I could get like you. I was writing kind of serial fiction effectively, and I just thought it would be quite nice to have this series of novellas, and somebody could maybe get the first one for free and see if they like the world
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
characters, and they could the next one and the next one. And the story finished after five novellas. Um, and to be brutally honest, I got to the point where I thought it's actually slightly annoying to have to maintain five books
Okay,
because of
that's just true.
because
Yeah.
of things like different versions and matter and uploading it to different stores and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just thought, I'll just combine them into one book and then I'll only have to worry about one book on all the different stores.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I guess what was happening is by this point I had lots of other books to
Yeah,
worry
yeah, yeah.
about.
Yep.
The sort of technical overhead of multiple books linking together, and having the right links of part one leading to part two and all the rest
Yep.
of it.
Yeah, yeah. I just always find it interesting from a business standpoint to ask people. So like me, like I'm on the other end and I need a little bit
Um,
more time to like filter out my because I'm gonna do my prequel novella trilogy each separate, and then I'm going to try and do a Kickstarter to do an anthology
right.
once all three come out.
Okay. Right.
So but it's like we've talked so much, my team and I, to different people. I feel like I've talked to like 50 different professionals, whether they're audio narrators, whatever, people who have done Kickstarter, comic book people. Like it's interesting. But yeah, but I have some other stuff too that's like that where I'm like, I think it would just be easier for those ones because these are a little bit different. But once I start writing, I have some other things that I'm definitely gonna do, like you did with Gene Hunter, where they are some shorter like novellas, but I am just gonna put them all in one thing.
Yeah.
But I always find it interesting to see how people do things because you never know, right? Like sometimes doing it a different way works for
Yeah.
certain people. So I always like to just point it out for the audience. But I think what you said makes total sense. And I also have a lot of people on here that it's either their first book. Like I just said, I had somebody who was like their 70th book. So I think it really just depends at what time and where you're at and what's going
Mm.
on. So
I, I
it's
think
always interesting.
you make a great point as well, and also, when you are a writer come publisher, you just try stuff as well. Really,
Yep.
you,
Yeah, yeah,
kick, people do Kickstarters, people release serial fiction online. They just
yep.
write books and go back into the den and write another book. No, there's no right or wrong way to do this stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
To some extent, I was just trying approaches really to get stuff out into the world. So
Yeah, yeah. But it's also cool on the other end, just saying, like, it's really nice, I think, too, where and I just, if it's okay, if I could just mention to people that the Gene Hunter is $3.99 right now on Amazon. So I think that's really cool though. Also, is that like instead of having, like mine and my novels, I'm gonna do probably $1.99, then usually like a 99 cent sale, right? They are like thicker. Mine usually tend to be like 25,000 to almost like 40,000. So I guess they're more like novelettes or whatever. But I do think it's interesting too, though, that to also provide people that ability to just buy them in one, right? And
yeah,
particularly if you normally split them up, right? Maybe some people don't have enough room on their Kindle, or maybe they can only really have time for just the one product. So I think also that it's just always interesting to not always do the same thing like you said, right? Like to try some new things. And I think
yeah.
it's a really good idea that I'm also going to go with later on. So I think that's super, super cool. One
I
reason
do
why I
also.
do this.
Yeah, well, yeah, yeah, and I didn't with the Gene Hunter, but I do also try and write novellas sort of with both Triple Stars and Cloven Land
Oh,
trilogy.
cool.
There's kind of a prequel novella for
Oh,
both of
awesome.
them, which is available. They should be free. I hope they are. Don't
Cool.
so just a kind of introduction to the world, to the setup, to the ideas, because there are so many books out there, and I've
Oh, yeah,
figured
yeah, yeah.
people could take those, see if they like them, and then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
buy into the
I'm so
book.
sorry. So sorry. So I just want to just double check because I'll probably have
Okay.
to fix this on my list now. Kryn, a Cloven Land novella. So that's a prequel to the trilogy then?
So which one? Sorry.
Oh no. Is it Kryn? Uh
Oh, right. Sorry. Hern, it's
okay.
pronounced.
Oh, sorry.
We should
So
have.
is that the prequel novella then to the Cloven Land trilogy?
Yeah. So Hern is a prequel novella to the Cloven Land trilogy.
Cool.
Whereas if you
Okay.
buy the Hern is the character is a kind of, I don't know if you know the horned man myth that
Oh
supposedly
yeah.
stalks the forests around me in Britain. So that, yeah,
Ooh.
that's Hern is that. So the prequel novella is kind of high fantasy, I guess.
Well, that's cool.
Um, but that's there, that leads into the Cloverland trilogy. So what I generally do is I write a novella like that, and then the novels, and then there's a box set which has them all combined. If you couldn't
Oh,
be bothered,
excellent. That's good to know. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
you
that's
don't
super
want to
cool.
download all the things at once. And the same with Triple Stars. So there's a novella called Homeworld,
Hmm.
which is a prequel to the events of the Triple
Oh, that's
Stars,
great to know.
kind of a couple of hundred years before, but feeds into
Oh,
it.
cool. Oh, it's really awesome. I'm gonna have to ask you later on. I'll have to email you some questions. I can't tell the audience why, but yeah, I
Okay.
have to consult you on a couple things.
Okay.
That's all I'm gonna say, peeps. You have to check out my website why later on. But that's really cool. I love prequel novellas. I'm a novella like fanatic, so
Okay.
I've always
Yeah.
read some amazing ones. If anybody has a chance, Anthony Ryan's like Seven Swords series is just it just wrapped up. It's like seven novellas of some of the best ones I've ever read, and it just kept
Okay.
me going. Like I love novellas, so I'm definitely gonna be checking those out as well. Maybe
Cool.
I can
Cool.
sneak in her and there,
Yeah.
and then Hedge Witch as well. My
Yeah.
wife, she's like, "You're always doing that. You're just like sticking in novellas." I'm like, "But it's relevant. I gotta read that before reading the trilogy." So it's only fair, right?
Yeah.
That's my
Got to be
logic, at
done.
least.
It's got to be
Yeah, yeah,
done. Yeah.
yeah. That's fair. I know we're wrapping up on time, but I definitely want to ask, what are your engine books about, and why should readers of steampunk pick them up today?
Engine, yes. So there's two engine books. So they
Oh,
are
cool.
again different.
Awesome.
So they're kind of I guess they're steampunk. They might be clockpunk. They
Oh,
might be
cool. Even better. That's my
they
favorite.
might oh right, okay. So they might just be fantasy books. Again, I really struggle
Yeah,
with
yeah,
those.
yeah.
But that it's an alternative world. It's a fantasy world that not particularly magical, but kind of again a bit cyberpunk in tone, in that there's a kind of idyllic land where the hero grows up and it's all very beautiful and it's sort of agrarian and all is fine. But there's this thing called Engine, which is it's either a city or it's a machine, a single vast machine where people go and they don't come back. Um, People get chosen and they get taken there. Like one in 10 kids just gets taken there and they're never seen again.
Oh, wow.
And the hero of Engine, his friend gets taken, so he's like, "Oh, good. I mean, oh, bad, but that means I'm not going to get taken at least." And then, as you could probably imagine, he does get taken, and it's about what he finds there really. And most of the action takes place in Engine, the machine itself. It is actually a kind of hard to describe. It is a machine, but it's just a sort of city machine basically that people are just crawling in and around, and they don't really know why they're doing it, and they don't know what that bit they're working on is for, or how it connects to the other bit that's 5 miles away. But they just know that's what they have to do, really. So people are doing that, and then our hero kind of becomes part of the rebellion against
Hmm.
that, I suppose.
Oh, that's really cool.
So they're
Well,
sort of
once again, yeah, yeah.
yeah, hard to describe, but yeah, clock punk,
Cool.
I suppose.
I love that. I just love the covers like those. If I had to pick my favorite covers that you have, it would be really, really difficult. And so like that was so book one, um, for this these two. That was like it was like right there with me for Hedgewitch
Okay.
to put on my new year. But I love this line again. So if people want to check out the covers, please, please, please take a moment to do so. I love the typography and the color that you use for both sets of books too. Looks amazing with the rest of the cover. But I love the loss in the great machine dot dot dot, and then the rest of that blurb is absolutely awesome. So if people, I know a lot of people ask me, like I see a lot of blurbs and I check out a lot of people research what they're doing. So I just want to pause and say that check out both blurbs for Engine. You guys will get a little bit more in-depth knowledge on how to do blurbs. So, where did that idea come from, Simon? That is so cool.
Well, again, it was another collision in my head. So it was, uh, wouldn't it be not, a sort of standard fantasy world of, would-be hero starts out with, with nothing, and um, combining that with this crazy idea of
Hmm,
a machine the size of Los Angeles, which just it's got so big and powerful that no one really knows what it's for anymore.
that's awesome.
Or do they? So it was just like, oh, that would be an interesting thing to do, to combine those
Yeah,
two tropes, if you like.
that's super
The
cool.
sort of science fiction, cyberpunky stuff and the fantasy hero story.
Yeah, yeah,
So I just combined them to see what happened.
that's awesome. It's so cool. Well, I'm definitely checking those out as well. So, if you could go on an adventure with any one of your characters, which one would it be and why? Who would you want on your team?
Wow.
Now you have to pick your favorite child.
I
I'm sorry.
don't know. Yeah,
Could you pick a couple? Like if you had like your Firefly team, like who would be a couple that maybe you would take with
Fireflies.
you?
Yeah, well, when I was writing the Triple Stars books, Firefly was in my head quite a bit.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
the protagonist of those books, whose name is Celine Ada, would probably be the one. She was,
Oh, cool.
but also in the Cloven Land trilogy, there are kind of two heroines, one from our world and one from the other world, and they kind of
Oh,
mix.
cool.
And one's called Kate from our world, and one's called Fur from the fantasy world. Um, and they might be related. So Kate again would probably be there. Yeah, and I probably wouldn't want the guy from the Gene Hunter along because I'm not sure I'd get on with him that much. But
You don't till you need him, right? And then you need
until
your
you need
Jane.
him, yeah, and then
Yeah.
he's there for you. Yeah. And the
That's
other one we
awesome.
haven't. I mean, I apologize for not even
Oh,
mentioning these
no.
that
Yeah,
I've
go right
written.
ahead.
But, so the last four books I've written are published with a publisher in Britain called Elsewhen Press, and they are. I've just written the fourth one has just come out, and there's going to be a fifth. So those
Oh, cool.
are called the Office of the Witchfinder General books. So the setup for those is that there's a shadowy arm of the British government which grew out of the Office of the Witchfinder General back in the 17th, 16th century,
Oh, that's cool.
and they're responsible for protecting Britain from, um, unnatural magical threats, basically. So the
That's
protagonist of those, whose name is Danish, I'd have along as well because I really like Danish, and he
oh,
basically
that's cool.
um, he's somebody I identify with in some ways. He loves drinking strong black coffee, so we'd get along. Um, yeah, and those have been a lot of fun. So they're based in the UK, so they're in the world around
Oh,
me,
okay.
but with various magical threats attacking Danish and his allies. So
Oh, that's cool. Are those under your name then? Sorry, they just weren't on Amazon for some
y-
reason.
yeah, they should be on. Yeah, they may not be on me as an author because because they're not published by me. They're published by Elsewhen Press. They may. I don't know if they come up under a different.
I wonder. I guess I should start checking like
But
Barnes and
we've got
Noble.
them. We've got them here. So there are four. That was the very first one, the Eye Collectors, it was called, is called. No, that's not on the camera, is it? Sorry. I'll send you the
Oh yeah,
links.
keeps. Oh
But
yeah, 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 yeah. I just want to make sure people can click on them and
yeah, yeah.
check them out. So
There's four of
awesome.
them so far, and I probably will write the fifth one. But
Oh, cool.
yeah, they've been a lot
Well,
of
those
fun.
all sound really cool. This all sound really awesome. But I just want to remind everybody that you can find Simon's links in the description of the interview. Whether you're watching or listening, doesn't matter where you're at. If you could please click on them, that would be great. He's got some amazing books, covers, blurbs, whatever you want to check out. And then just don't forget, whatever you're buying from our authors and creators, we just want to remind people to, 'cause we got a lot of different people, not just authors. We got directors on here, some comic book people. We've had audio narrators and actors before, so please make sure that you are reviewing all the products. It helps everybody, not just the person you're seeing on screen. It helps their team as well. I have artists, cover artists, editors, development editors, like you name it, that are helping me out. So same for me, right? Like it's really
Yeah,
nice to,
yeah,
help you, but it's also nice to help your team. So it helps keep the
yeah.
industry going. So I just want to remind people for that. Simon, what did you get to that last question there? Do you have any news, updates, current projects, anything like that you can share with us?
Well, yes, I was going to mention the fourth Office of the Witchfinder General book, which has just come out. It's called The Order of the British Vampire, which kind of wraps up a story arc that has been covering the first four books. But the thing I'm actually working on, and we were talking about being blocked, well, not blocked, but slogging at times.
Yeah.
Having worked on those four fantasy books, I've inevitably switched to science fiction. So um, I've written a science fiction book, which is kind of near future, kind of solar system based.
Oh, that's cool.
It's set on a battered space station in around Mars. It's another story that grew out of a short story I wrote many years ago.
That's cool.
It's it's a kind of a thriller, kind of a detective story, but there's a much bigger political situation going on that slowly becomes apparent. Um, that's called The Twisted Road,
Hmm.
The Twisted Way. I beg your pardon. So that's going to be published actually. So Elsewhere Press here in the UK we're currently working on that at the moment, editing that.
Cool.
That's going to come out, I guess, next year. And the book I'm currently working on, In My Own Inimitable Way, is the prequel to that. One of these days, I'm going to write a trilogy, book one, book two, and then book three. That must be awesome. So with Triple Stars, I wrote 3, 2, 1. This one I'm writing 2, 1, 3,
Hmm.
effectively. So I'm writing the prequel novel at the moment.
Oh, that's cool.
That's called The Infinite Road. And
Hmm.
I'm about
Okay.
2/3 of the way through that, I think. So
Awesome. Well, that's super
yeah,
cool. Well, that sounds amazing. So Simon, thank you so much for coming on. This has been great. Can't wait to read the books. I always love to talk to people now. I used to read first, and then I don't know, there was like a disconnect, and now I do the director's cut, and then I go and I get so much more out of it. Listen, like just listening of how you came up with things, why it makes the reading or watching or whatever I'm doing,
cool.
just makes it more enjoyable as the reader or viewer, but then as the writer in me just gets so many more ideas, just like fuels me up. So it was really hard to pick Engine or the Hedge Witch.
Yeah,
Uh, I might still have to I might still go, but I don't know. I'm pretty set on the Hedge Witch right now for the new year. But once my video comes out,
okay,
I'm doing a part one and part two for my reading list for the new year. I'm doing reviews for all of them. I'm super behind on reviews, but I'm hoping to get caught up on the Thanksgiving break. But I'm gonna start to do like one a day. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But if there's anything else we can do for you in the meantime, please just let me know. But other than that, I'll be emailing you
cool,
today and also this weekend, like probably Saturday, with all the other links and stuff. But other than that, I hope you have a great rest of the day. And please, like I said, reach out to me. Anything else you need, I'd love to help you out in the future. So
cool. Well, thanks for having me on. It's been a lot of fun.
anytime,
And
anytime. Thank you so much. Yeah, go right ahead.
I was going to say the good news was I could remember all of those books.
I was just
Yeah,
gonna
it
say,
was all
yeah,
fun.
I'm impressed by that. Yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Well,
Well,
Simon, you have a
thank you,
great
Daniel.
rest of the day. I'll see you
Thank you.
soon. Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.